Okay, streamed. And we are moving. Okay, and I would suggest ki you take some running notes out of this. Okay, so try to take some running notes out of this. And the recording is anyways going to be available, but the key pointers, at least if you start noting it, you can like remember and cherish it for a long time. Check it out if you're already working in the industry. Okay, maybe some things you can start implementing right from Monday onwards. Okay, so it would be something very nice and valuable. Fine. Chalo, let them get going. Let's get rolling. Okay, team. So good evening, all. It's our Friday time, and yes, day one, day two. So here we are as part of the day 4 of the corporate learnings. Okay, a few important things we have discussed about our corporate, some techniques which you can definitely apply. We have done some custom planning, which we came up with some ideas, prioritize it, plan that when we want to do it. But yes, I know that some of you would have executed, some might not have. Okay, so understand it's human nature, everything happens. Okay, but we need to further build a system where we are able to do this repeatedly and get consistent results. So all that is going to happen as part of future coming sessions. But now, as part of today's topic, okay, we are going to discuss some of very critical use cases and scenarios which happened in my experience and some of my friends experience in their corporate careers, and some massive learnings which I personally feel everyone should be aware of, because not doing things right will have some massive damages to the system and to the corporates, to the clients, to you, and to the business, everyone. Okay, so we are going to discuss some of these cases, okay, how you can overcome and really get into the right phase of the IT industry. Okay, so chalo, one by one we are going to get started. So guys, with full attention and be serious about everything that we are going to discuss today. Okay, first of all, uh, database is everything. Okay, so just understand, eventually any application, data is what matters. Your code, even everything is scrapped, you can restore it, okay, from the snapshots, from the Git repositories, anywhere. If your hardware is crashed, it can again be brought up. Application doesn't mean a thing. In a long run, what really matters is only the business data. Now, whatever it needs to be done in order to protect the data, because as long as data is there, that's where a company is running. Without data, companies do not exist. Okay, now you need to be very sure key, if you are in projects, you need to have this awareness and maturity key, how the data of your system is managed, nothing but the database data. Okay, it needs to be proof against crash recoveries or disaster recoveries or any kind of unexpected situations which might happen. For example, somebody just runs a delete query in the system or a truncate query. Like, how do we really recover the data of the system? That is something very important which everybody should focus upon. Okay, now precisely, if any one of you will have access to the production database, let me tell you, there are cases. Okay, even a senior guy, it was around a person having 8 9 years of experience. He was supposed to do a update in the production system. It was some gaming kind of use case where there was money and wallets, all that included, that kind of project. Okay, somewhere accidentally, due to carelessness or overlook, okay, so in the database there was one table and it was having values like amount. Okay, so his balance and the amount, that kind of portion was there, Accidentally, that guy wrote an update script where in the amount section, he ended up passing the phone number. A 10 digits number he passed as an amount. Okay. And somehow he was a senior guy. Somehow his query went to production and it was executed in production. Okay. And what happened is, as an end result, whoever was the customer, he got a 10 digit amount balance in his wallet. Now you can imagine how serious this thing is. Okay. And it went to production, it was executed. Now there will be consequences, right? Immediately on the same day, that person was suspended. That's it. They did not even think. Immediately same day, they said, okay, pack up your bag and leave, and you are suspended, and we will fix this problem. And when things get back to normal or we are in confidence, we'll have the discussion and then pull you back. Understand, things will be critical. And if any one of you gets the production access, because guys, there are companies of different layers right now. Big service companies, wahan pe the production access, getting that itself is going to be miracle. Okay, but there are companies in the market, small scale, medium scale, there even juniors are getting access to the systems and they don't have the right maturity, and then they cause damages. Okay. So first thing, if you have production access, it's with severe responsibility. Any query that you write and execute, you have to be thoroughly sure what it is, verify it multiple times, but don't just let it run, because there will be severe consequences of that. Okay. Now the second thing, always, if you are having, like, working with database will be with some softwares. Understand, if you're a Java developer, you need to know, or even if you're any PHP, Python, whatever, if you're a backend developer, knowing database is a must for you. Okay, don't think there is somebody else going to come. You need to have database knowledge. So that's where. Okay. The second important thing of the database, data security. Okay, just think about it. There were cases, okay, knowingly or unknowingly, if you download production data in Excel sheets or whatever form, and if it is there in your local machines or your devices anywhere, even your company laptops, that is a very severe risk. If something goes wrong in the production, something hacks or leaks in data, you will be actually highly accountable. Okay, I have literally seen a case where a person was put behind bars, jail mein dal diye the, okay, because he actually tampered, he stole the production data and gave it to somebody else. Okay, so somebody at a very severe role. Okay, I saw that. So he actually had production access, he got the customer data. Because even you might feel simple data, what is the problem? But emails, contact numbers, names, this data is what business is. Even this data was exported and given to somebody, that person was put behind bars. I saw that, police came, and from the office he was taken outside. Okay, now you need to understand, he accidentally also, if you get production data and that is residing in your local machines, it is a very severe risk, and if something goes wrong, you will be suspected. So always make sure that you are never storing the sensitive data, custom production data in your local machines. Even if temporarily it came, you completely erase it. Don't maintain it. It is a very big risk. Second, very valuable learn. Okay. Third, while working on systems, you will work with third-party systems. Okay, for example, third-party integrations will be there. Like, you have written your application, this application talks to any third-party application. Okay, so third party is like some real world companies which will give their own REST endpoints, and you have to invoke them and get the work done. These kind of applications will be there. Okay, understand that it will need some live credentials in order to access that. Okay, for example, in the current world, PhonePe is integrated, let's say, with Axis Bank, with so many things, nothing but real world applications connect with each other via this API communication. They call endpoints, they get processed. Now, you need to, third thing, be aware. if you are even having the live credentials of production system, okay, production live credentials for calling an endpoint. Okay, let's say if Axis Bank has done some integration with PhonePe, so there will be some credentials which will be stored at the Axis Bank by which they are actually calling PhonePe systems. So let me say if the system is middle level, okay, high-end system, they will be removing all that. Okay, but in middle systems, if suppose these live credentials are stored and you have access to it, you are at risk. If something goes wrong, you can also be suspected. So always try as best as possible that you should not get access to live credentials. अपना काम है guys building the right applications in the best possible manner and taking it forward. If you get access to these things, it comes with risk, and security data breaches cannot be tolerated in the companies. They will never. Okay, so be very aware. Live credentials, don't maintain it with yourself. Now all the credentials, okay, next learning, when you write your projects, in the projects you will be having property files where the credentials will be stored, database credentials, these third party endpoints, third party credentials. You need to build an application where these credentials are not stored in your project source code. Why? Because if that properties are in your project source code, nothing but if you, let's say you want to connect to the database, so what you do is you open a property file, there you write the database source, URL, username, password, schema, connection pool or details and all that. As it is in the plain file, you're just keeping it. This all credentials are available, let's say in your code of Bitbucket, GitHub, wherever. If this code is available in GitHub, that means your entire team knows your passwords. And understand, if the developer wants to damage something, he can literally do it. You know which endpoint to call, you have the credentials, you can pass, you can call, you can transfer money, you can do a lot of things. Okay, so be careful. If it is there in your project, the credentials are available, request your seniors to build up a different modules. Like AWS is having like credential store, and then there are a lot of other services where these credentials will not be stored in your application code. Okay, maybe on the server machine where the project is going to be running, there itself these properties will already be available so that the developer never knows it. Try to work in the right manner and avoid any risk. Security breaches are very critical for industry, and so that's the next learning. Okay, when building applications, the property files, sensitive data, credentials, don't store it in your project code, in your day-to-day coding, what you're doing. These all has to be available maybe on the machines which are running, where the service comes up there, all the properties are there, it picks from there. Or there are third-party services like AWS credential store, which is designed to hold all of this, and the developers will not be having access to this. Okay, so take data seriously, take production environments very seriously. Mistakes could lead to blunder. Okay, now another incident. Okay, there was one phase, okay, where the entire project functionality was built up. Nothing but functionally whatever the application expects, all of that coding happened, everything happened. Okay, but the client was very critical client, and he said ki the way the API response handling and the API design was there, the client simply said we cannot take this project to production. Okay, now get the seriousness. The entire team of whatever 6 people, 10 people, okay, worked for let's say 3 months, build a project, and now the project is supposed to go to production. Now there is a review team which came from the client side. Some technical guys came from the client side. They checked the entire code as well, reviewed the code before going to production. Sometimes it happens. They said the way you guys have defined API contracts and the response handlings, we cannot give a sign off for taking your project to production. Okay, and now okay, the lead of that project, there was a question in front of him. If you don't fix this immediately, the entire team will be laid off. That's it. The customer is saying, we will take the project back if you don't fix this as soon as possible. And we don't want to take this to production because you have done a crappy job. So you never know, even a functionally right system, but not meeting client expectations will backfire. Okay. Yes, at your junior level, you will be like, okay, somebody will do the mess, but understand, okay, being in IT, building up systems is a critical job. It's not like ki chahiye chahiye. You need to be responsible. There are circumstances. So this is what happened. The client simply said, if this project is not addressed, okay, we will take back the project, and the entire team of 6 to 8 members immediately, right from tomorrow, lay them off. We cannot afford them anymore because they have done a crappy job. Now, the team somehow had to fix the problem. Within 2 3 days, the team fixed it, and yes, the project went live. But just understand, if you don't do the right things, there will be projects which will be at serious risk. IT job is not that easy always. There will be ups, there will be downs, there will be serious cases also happening. You need to be aware and alert. Okay. Now let me share you some of the inputs. Okay, what I learned out of that experience when I heard it about this API contracts and all that, so that you can also take some value out of it. Okay, some very nice pinpointed things. Okay. Now few things. I will be sharing my screen. I'll just open a notepad and we'll try to write a few things together. So just focus, understand. Okay, just give a second. Today's session is all so that you focus on the right things which will be required for you as you go forward in your career. Okay, sharing the screen. Okay, now first, terminology wise. Okay, basically people integrate endpoints. If you are a UI developer, server developer, or QA, all the three people, you will know majority of the world right now is communicating with REST endpoints. Okay, so when you say API or endpoint, it is all one and the same. It's like server guys will give a URL which the UI team is going to integrate, and then they will make a call, and request response processing is going to happen. Nothing but that is something endpoint or API. Okay, it will be something like, let's say, xyz.com slash, okay, payment slash initiate. Okay, something like this, www dot. So this basically is nothing but called as an endpoint. So a URL which will be invoked is an endpoint basically. Always now this will have two things: request, response. Okay, so it will be called, API will be having, generally people have like JSON request, JSON response. There are different ways of doing it. I'm just giving one example. Okay, so this API, when it is called, it could be a get, post, head, or whatever. So it has an endpoint, it has request, it has response. Now you need to understand, the clients for that project were so critical कि भाई, what you are passing in the request and what you are passing in the response, they wanted, let's say, if there is a UI page, if there is a UI page having, let's say, simply money transfer action, I'm talking a simple use case of transferring money. Let's say there are three fields like X account, source account, and now there is a text field here. Okay, next there is a Y, destination account. I'm talking about, there is a UI page. Let's say there is a UI page. The feature is money transfer feature, and on the UI there is source account. Then there is a text field for destination account. there is an amount field, and then there is a currency field. Let's say I'm just giving a simple example. Now, for this simple example on the UI, if you want to call the server, let's say payment slash transfer money, if this is the API, be very careful with the naming. The naming has to be logical and talking about what exactly happens. Okay. Now, it always has to be like that. It's just common sense. This is how it should be. Okay. Now, what the clients were saying is, if this is your UI accepting only this much data, we want that in the request, when you pass, your request body should have only this much data. Okay. And in the response, what you say, maybe yes, you say us whether it's success, failure, but you should not give back any additional details. Okay. Nothing but API contract wise, understand, and try to always design your systems like this itself. Whenever you design an API contract, look at the functionality, whatever data is required to be passed to the API, define the request structure to capture only that in the input. And from the response perspective, okay, don't give any additional data. So don't pass like, okay, here you might just say in response, okay, status maybe. Okay, status. It could be a success status. That's enough because there is nothing more required. So while designing here, technically you can give here whatever. Okay, you can give status, you can give again the amount back to them, you can give currency back to them. It completely depends. Coding wise, whatever can be done. But the clients were so critical. If the functionality is expecting only 4 fields to pass, whatever API you give in the request structure, you should ask only for 4 fields. Next, whenever this response is being called for, in the response, you give back only that much of data which will be required for UI to go forward. Nothing but think what request structure and response structure will be there, what endpoint naming will be there. You have to be very careful about it. Okay. So the first learning is define this properly based upon the functionality. Don't add unnecessary variables more here and there, because that technically it can be done. People might not raise it, but somewhere there was a client who was having severe concerns regarding this. Okay, so some people take it seriously. So this is what it is. Okay, now that is one learning. Now the next one, guys, with regards to endpoints. Okay, I guess you all might be already aware of the JWT token and security if you have done it. So be very sure that before you process any endpoint, that token based security is always happening. JWT token or something else in Spring security wise, that token validation. So before you process the endpoint, so that is the second thing. Always remember it. Even guys, fresher, if you're coding on a project, you should not just allow API to be processed in the system. It's a blunder. Okay, so accidentally also don't get in that trap. The seniors of your project will take care, but before processing APIs, security checks should happen. Security checks is simple, like a token checks basically. Okay, whether this is a valid token, is the user authorized to make this API call, those kind of things will be there. Make it mandatory. And as a junior also try to understand. I just think your code is running in production. If this is not there, I can sit at my home and I can call that API. If you're not validating whether the right people are calling it, that means anyone from the world can call, let's say, this money transfer API. And you cannot allow that to happen, right? So be careful. So your endpoints, whatever you write on the server, it is publicly opened and anybody can call them across the globe. It's not just your UI application. Anybody can call this endpoint. So you need to be sure that the token processing, JWT tokens or anything like that, OAuth will be there. And like there are multiple ways of getting things through. Okay, OAuth standards are there, JWT token mechanism is there. These are some commonly used across the projects. So just make sure that before processing API, this token security check is always happening. Okay, OAuth and GWT. Okay, these are few of the things, and there might be multiple other protocols of security. Certificate verification will also there at times. Okay, SSL, like public key private key certificate, public private certificate. So certificate based encryptions will be there at times. It depends. Okay, so fine, always before processing API in your code, you should be sure that the security check has happened. Okay, be careful about this. Now next thing. Okay, guys, this is important. Every one of you remember it, whether you are a UI or whether you are a server. Very important, guys. Okay, response handling. Okay, how do you handle the responses of these APIs? It's a very critical thing. Okay, now what exactly this means? Now, where does response handling required? First of all, UI is talking to server. Yeah, today's session thoda sa technically भी जा रहा है. Okay, let's say UI is talking to server, nothing but server will give a endpoint response back. It might have whatever success status, blah blah blah. Nothing but when this response comes on the UI, how the UI handling should be. The second use case could be server calling server. Internally, let's say you are using microservices. So one service is calling some other service. That service will also give some kind of response back. Accordingly, how do you handle that in the code? Or there could be server calling external third-party services. Okay, there are so many examples of external third party. Okay, I've like done not sure how many, like 30 40 integrations, many integrations. Okay, it's part of a day-to-day job basically. Nothing but what will happen is you want to use a API of online currency conversion. Okay, so there will be somebody in the real world, they already have some API where they maintain the currency conversion, and if you want to use that, you just have to open an account with them and you can use them in your code. That becomes a third party service. Okay, like this, depending upon your projects, there will be a lot of real-time third party services which will be used. Okay, now what exactly in all of these cases, when you get the response back, how do you handle is very important. So first of all, understand we are all in, let's say this is the response, we are all running in the HTTP world. Okay, so there are factors, there will be HTTP response code like 200 series, 300 series, 400 series, 500 series. So HTTP response code, and then you have a proper structure. Okay, now the important thing where some of the developers make mistake is they don't handle all possibility of response. Okay, I want to give you a simple example. Okay, let's say example number one, success response. Success response ke, let's say you try to do a login into the system, you passed username and password, backend verified it, says ki bhai process successfully, right? So in such cases, let's say you give status as success and HTTP response code as, let's say, 200. Okay, next, let's say failure response. Then maybe you made HTTP response code, let's say 40x. Sometimes you can define your own codes. They have made it some things publicly valid as well. Okay, next, there you will write status is failure, failed, with maybe something like error code and maybe error message. Just example. Okay, now simple, these two kind of possibilities. Now देखो, just understand, you need to properly handle any kind of possibility which might come as response of this endpoint. It could be this possibility, or it could be this possibility, or they might have some 3-4 statuses, not just success fail, maybe something like pending, maybe something like try again later. There could be n number of possibilities. You need to understand that, and accordingly you need to code at your side to handle every possible case. Okay, and for that, when you are integrating or coding, you need to ask the people ki bhai, tell us the API documentation, ki what all possible error codes can come, what all request structure, response structures can come, what kind of possible HTTP codes can come, and you need to study all of that properly. And once you study, then you need to handle every single case in your system. Because if you don't do, it will end up in 500s, internal server error, this error, that error, and your application is going to fail. Okay, you need to handle everything. Ki bhai, if 200 comes, then what? If anything other than this is coming, then how you should handle? And you should, general basic practice, your code should not keep throwing so many exceptions. So you need to handle those things properly. Okay, so steps of how to do response handling is: first, study the API documentation very clearly for any possibility of response, and you should make sure that your code handles each possibility. If the status is success, then what? If the status is failed, then what? If the status is try again later, then what? So everything should be handled in the code. And even try to maybe do something generic. If the status comes unknown, which you have not handled, there also maybe you can mark it like, handle it like the response failed. But don't keep anything in open state. Okay, I know for beginners, some of you will be like, bouncer ja raha hai, kya ho raha hai? Okay, but I really want you to understand ki it's a responsible job. IT, coding, projects, there is use cases at risk. If not handled properly, it will impact the business. Okay, so just understand, simple response handling wise, any possibility of response should be 100% coded in your application. Okay, so two major tips here. First, API documentation, read carefully. Okay, second, any possibility of response need to be handled properly. Okay, so just keep it like that basic. Next, you try to follow, when we are already talking about APIs, try to follow HTTP standards. Okay, HTTP standards of using these response codes properly, of naming conventions, of how success and failure has to be defined, of how these API endpoints should be defined. There are standards available for all these things also. Try to understand those HTTP standards and try to really put that as part of your day-to-day activities. Okay, that's something really required. Okay, so yeah, few basic insights on how API handling should be. Okay, security needs to be considered. Next, the request and the response structure should talk about the business use cases very properly. Next, when you're doing the response handling, read the documentation clearly and handle any single possible outcome of that response. Okay, now further, one more thought I'll give you. Key in the real world, it is not always a happy scenario. There will be network timeouts. Nothing but you have handled everything in code, but it will start throwing network timeout to you. Nothing but you called an endpoint, that guy is not responding. Okay, now you need to understand, network timeout doesn't mean fail. There are cases, I have actually seen it in my career. You call that third party, there is system one, there is system two. You call that system two. Now system two processed it successfully, but before it responds back, something happened in the network and the glitch happened. Nothing but you tried to transfer the money in the third party system, money went successfully, but it gives you a network timeout. The money is gone, but it has network timeout. You need to understand that that's not same as failure. So when you're coding, when you're thinking, try to cover this case. What will happen if network times out? How should your code handle it? Discuss that requirement with your corresponding clients. See how these cases should be handled. Okay, don't assume it directly to be failure, because you might call it failure, but the money is already gone, and you cannot assume it to be success also because you don't know the response. Okay, so network handling timeout cases, maybe the open statuses will be there in your system, maybe reconciliation, those kind of processes will come, maybe every end of the day processing those, trying to sort those things, balance the open transactions, stuff like that. But network timeout, think about that as well. Okay, so few basic inputs here. What are the day-to-day practices you need to consider while you are coding? Okay, network timeouts. ठीक है, so far so good guys, understanding? Okay, let me see your faces के सच में understanding है कि धूम धड़ाका bounces going on. How many of you at least got something out of it? Can you just type it in chat कि understanding? Hey, देखो, those are working, they will get it very properly. Okay, but the beginners के लिए I'm just trying to say कि this is what is the real world, and यहाँ पे your experience doesn't matter. If you're fresher or even 1 year experience, you have to work for the same projects. Okay, your seniors will be there, they will guide you, but let's say agar nahi hai seniors, or they are not guiding you properly, if you write something, it goes in blunder situation. Okay, so some of the guys are saying that they are understanding, so that's a good sign, everyone. Okay, 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 try to understand. Okay, or at least try to get the seriousness out of this situation. Okay, okay, being aware of it, at least if you are careful, oh, this can go wrong, be aware about that. Okay, that's very much required. Okay, now let me speak about one more critical area. Okay, it is database performance. Okay, now this is magic. You write a simple query, it will work very properly in your non-production environment. You run the same query in production, and it is taking like ages to return the response. Sometimes 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, the data is not coming because the size of the production database is so huge that simple query which was working in your non-prod environment, it was giving the results like that. In production, it is now failing badly. And this can happen with any one of you. It depends upon how big your production system is, what projects you are in, and how critical that is. So there is a step-by-step way of thinking, and you can encounter, anybody can encounter it. Again, doesn't depend upon your experience. You wrote a query, it failed in production. Okay. Now, there is a way of simply thinking how to get through this. Okay. Sometimes there's as simple query as not even joining anything, that will also fail. Simple query, select star from one table without any joins, even that will start getting into crisis. It's taking more time, and the customers will be, what's going wrong, what's going wrong. Okay, so simple thought process. Okay, zyada complicated nahi hai, but you need to be aware. Okay, thoda sa exploring will be required. First of all, there is a huge value of indexing. So every one of you should have basic knowledge what to index, how to index. That's very much required. Okay, and on the database design which you do, try to put the right index. Know it, over indexing is also not going to give you the desired performance. So you need to strike the right balance. Minimum sufficient indexes has to be created on the tables where you suspect load will be more, size will be more. Okay, so first of all, yes, whatever primary keys and all. Second, based upon the use cases of the system, you need to find for indexes. Okay, you need to find, everybody is supposed to know everything, guys. Don't try to say what I am supposed, like even if you're a beginner, you need to have the knowledge of database. Okay, freshers ko we give the task, create a DB table and start working with it. So there is no differentiation. Okay, you need to have basics of everything. Okay, now coming back to the flow. So first step mein primary key has to be there. Second step, if your table will have lot of data, indexes needs to be created. So get that knowledge how to create index and all that. Okay, now once you apply this, now third, okay, how you are using these index columns or primary key in your where clause, that also has impact on the performance. The order of your fields in the where clause, that also has an impact. there is a simple database command like explain, which tells you how the engine of your database, Oracle or MySQL, will be executing this query. So you can simply do explain of your query. It will give a plan how exactly the query will be executed by your system. First it does what, then it does what. So you can use that for debugging, okay, what is going wrong. So third step is the order where of where clause condition, where x is equal to 3 or whatever you write in the where clause, right? Select star from so and so table where, and there might be a lot of this and this and this and this. So this where clause condition, order of your fields also matter here. So you can use something like explain to really figure it out. These are three basic things which you should always remember as a developer. Now on top of this, further jaake, you always have to care about ki sometimes system will get into data partitioning in your database. Some partitions will be created. Here DBA knowledge will be required. So there are going to be some professionals in the industry called as DBAs, database administrators. They are primarily responsible for this, but till at least basic, you should be able to take care of database by your own self. Okay, but they will come, they will have concepts of like, let's tune up the database by creating the right partitions into it. They will archive the data, and they have their own ways of getting things done. Okay, so always know that you might have to coordinate with these people and work with them in order to tune your database. Okay, the functional database building will be all your responsibility, but performance tuning ke liye, there are some experts, but at least to some basic knowledge you should have it, to at least be aware of these initial few things. Okay, next, always try to discuss with your business people the application, the requirement guys. If they have given a requirement ke by churn past 3 years of data, it's the requirement itself is wrong. Like 3 years ka data karke karenge kya? Okay, so you have to negotiate back with your clients also. What's this use case? Why 3 years of data required? Bring it down, maybe 6 months data, 3 months data, 1 year data. And then there are like, you might have to build systems, averaging out, summarizing, aggregating it, putting some summary. Complicated systems can be further built up. Okay, but now just simple understand ki, try to see application wise. If you're trying to process too much of data, that is going to definitely slow down. So check with the business, can you narrow down that? Check whether the right primary key is there, check whether the right indexes is there, check whether the order of these keys in your where clause is proper or not. Okay, and another tip guys, we have two systems generally in production. Master system, master database will be there, slave database will be there. It is always highly recommended that you connect your application for select queries on the slave database, so that only read operation happens here, write operations goes to the master. So this kind of structure will work for a long time. Okay, so these kind of things are there. And what I want you all to open and understand here, key, any technology you might be supposed to learn quickly and fix. So don't really put so hard barriers ki bhai, I know only this, that's not my area, because you will cut down opportunities if you think like that. Okay, I want all of you to think big, think broad, be ready to take up any kind of thing. Go to Google, explore, read, build up some POC in your local machine, see what's working, what's not working. Be confident and keep exploring. The more you run away from challenges, you will not be growing. And that's not how a great career can be built up. Okay, so understand everyone. So new things, database nahi aata seekho, Python nahi aata seekho. Recently I got to know more than Java, Spring, there is a Python related some core libraries which are being widely used in the current times. Okay, a lot of things are going on in the world, so be flexible, then only you can grow along with these times. Okay, fine. So that's some basic things about database tuning. Know that some things which will run in your non-prod might not work the same in the prod. So you have to be careful that these things might come in, and just be prepared. Okay, now sometimes this is again an interesting thing. You might have to deal with thread dumps or heap dumps. Okay, At least write down these names if you're not aware. Read more about it. Thread dumps or heap dumps. Sometimes your application will not respond. You're using your application and your threads, everything is gone. It's a stuck situation. Nobody knows ki kya chal raha hai system. किसी को पता ही नहीं. Everybody is like, oh, this check, that check, logs are not moving, nothing is happening. Such situations will come. Yeah, thread dumps and heap dumps. Okay, such situations might come. So then for understanding what really has gone wrong in the system, you need to capture these dumps. Dumps are nothing but it's like a state of what all the threads are doing at that time. Heap dump is the state of what all objects are doing at that time. And then you can then further see, oh, this object is busy here. Oh, they are in the locked state. What are they waiting for? Then relating with the code will help you to really get it nice. Okay, so there will be scenarios in your project where your code just hangs, nothing works, logs are not moving, nothing is happening. In such cases, always the best thing to do is capture the dumps of that process, your Java process, and then later on there are Eclipse based tools available, memory, Eclipse memory analyzer, and those kind of tools by which you can import these dumps, analyze it, and then you try to make judgment whether what's happening. Okay, so just be aware. Even though you are a junior, I want to share you all this so that you understand what kind of world you are going to get into. And this world does not differentiate whether it was coded by junior or senior. If it is to fail, it will fail. Right? And it completely depends on what kind of project you get into and what guidance you get in your projects. But don't come up with statements, yaar, if fail ho gaya to ho gaya. Okay? Fine. Now, let's move on. Let's move on. Trying to share you some critical insights. Understand this, guys. There have been cases I encountered, some of my friends and all also encountered, ki billing of resources were stopped because they were not regularly updating things in Jira. The client said, this guy has not updated the tasks. We don't know whether he's genuinely working or not. And with more this remote working and all that, where people are not at office, there is some doubt on people whether they are genuinely working, not working. And there have been cases in the industry where the client is saying, I'm not going to pay money for this guy. This month billing, I'm not going to give. And that will have impact on the employee also, right? So just be aware, whatever process is there in your company, in your project, understand that and follow that. Be a proper IT professional, not just a coder or a developer. There is a responsibility. You need to know what the system is, follow the system, make the necessary Jira updates at the right time, because billings are getting impacted at times because of this. So don't get into that. Okay? Sometimes you might have to log hours. How many hours a day have you worked? And now that's the agreement. If you have logged 8 hours, 10 hours, that's how much money the client will bill for you. And then only the salary and all that things are happy for you. So understand, in your project, when you're doing this Jira or any kind of tools, so understand what your team is doing, whatever, and do it responsibly. Don't make it like somebody should push you to do it, and that's not my job. Don't do it like that. It's plunder. Okay, it's plunder. Money nahi aayega to kya karoge? Baitoge haath pe haath rakhe. So don't do that. There have been cases like that. It's happening in industry. Okay. And next scenario. So understand even this key point. Okay. Now next one. I want all you people, no matter what experience layer you are into right now. Okay. I want every one of you to understand the value of unit testing. Big systems cannot survive without unit testing. Okay, a ever expanding system, growing more and more logic and all that coming, it will become very impossible to maintain such systems if unit testing is not there. Small systems, it's okay, somehow it will run, but big systems ke liye unit testing almost becomes mandatory. And sometimes if the development is taking 2 days, your unit testing might take 2 days also. Sometimes it even goes 2.5 days. But there are projects where these things are mandatory. I want you all to get that maturity and understand why you have to do it if your project demands for it. Why? Because consequences will be severe without unit testing. Okay. Now let me try to explain. UI wise unit testing is also there. Server wise unit testing is also there. Okay. Now simple, what happens is, guys, why exactly unit testing is so useful? Let's say you have written a lot of code in the project. Okay. When you write unit testing, you set an expectation how every method should behave. That's what is unit testing. Okay, with this input, the method should behave like this. With this input, the method should behave like this. Let's say after 5 years, you want to make modification in that code. What will happen? New developers will be coming. You might not be there in that company after 5 years, but company should run, right? So somebody else will come. He will not even know, okay, if he changes few things in that line, which other part of the system is going to fail. He doesn't know that. And in such cases, unit testing helps. So let's say if you modify any existing code, okay, and if you run your existing test suite of unit testing, something else will fail, then you should realize, oh, because I made this modification, that code is going to be affected. So you need to go there, you need to handle that code properly. So that is where unit testing will help you to always build new features which is compatible to the existing features. So you will not be breaking the old system for building new functionality. Okay? So try to understand, even if it takes double time, it is a good practice to do. But like, yeah, juniors come with a lot of immaturity and they are like, coding kar liya na, why I should do that? So I want to tell you it is important. Okay? So understand all that. Okay, fine. Now, one last learning for today. Okay, I'm just trying to throw all the key things. Touch. Okay. Now, one important thing I would like to say. There will be phases in your projects, okay, where you have to really work very hard. And you don't try to run away from that. Because when in those phases you put your full efforts, that's where you will become somebody. Otherwise, forever throughout your IT career, you will always stay mediocre and average. Okay, so understand, there will be phases. Okay, I've been through it, many of my friends been through it. There will be phases, or there were so many phases. Okay, specifically if you work on very critical challenging projects. Okay, I have worked for six months, eight months like that. Ki Monday to Saturday, Sunday also half day working. Okay, daily late night, 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, coming back to home. Again going back by 10, 11. Okay, for 7 months, 8 months, worked on such projects. And not just once, multiple projects came in the career where that kind of swing has to happen. Okay, now understand it. You can simply say, I don't want to do this because it's not proper balance for me. It is like screwing things up. But let me tell you, and in fact, let me promise you, these are the projects which will crush you and take the diamond out of coal. It will make you think right, put your best commitments, put the best self out. You will realize so much new abilities which that environment and pressure made you to self-realize, which you will never realize if you're working at a normal pace. You will know what you are actually capable of when you are exposed to such situations. And you need to really be lucky if you got into such situations. It will not come for everybody. Many of the projects will happen very smoothly. But when such situations come, I don't want you to run away from that. Be there, be ready, karenge. Let's do it. Because such incidents makes you go, like right now career is like this. When such incident comes and you master it and learn and grow, you will go one level up. And then that's how your growth will keep moving on and on. Okay. But if you're like, nahi, aise nahi karenge, and if you come up with a complaining attitude, that's not how life works. Okay, somebody else will take that opportunity and his career will become grand in future. Okay, and understand that. And there is one guy, I was working with him, a product manager from Europe. He said this very nice thing: the project always happens in phases. There will be some phases where there might be pressure coming up, a lot of tight timelines are there, and in such phases you have to work like that and get the work done. And then there will be peaceful and relaxed time also. and then there will be again a high tide, then a low tide. So you need to understand, if your project is constantly on the high tide, that's also a problem. Okay, you cannot, because you will get wear and tear out of it. Your health will be impacted, sleep will be impacted. So if for a long time your project is having too much stressful situation, burnout situation, that project is not dealt properly. Okay, so there has to be relaxation time also coming. Yes, at times speed up, at times slow down. So that's how your life should be in the IT industry. You cannot be forever slow down, because you will never learn anything in that. And you cannot be always on a peak pressure zone, because then you will be burning out. And so ups and downs should be there. Sometimes ups might continue for long, but yes, once you master it, it becomes normal also. Okay, so try to strike the right balance. And when your project demands something like this, be ready to put efforts. Don't say ke nahi karna hai. Okay, so that's actually, you're just turning down an opportunity. Okay, and this is where, so there are thoughts, right? So who and what kind of people we should really give. So when project gets into this, sometimes it will be mandatory for entire team to come. Sometimes it will be like, okay, let's give it to only selected people, because they will be committed to put that effort. So try to be in the one who grabs the opportunities. Okay, so understand, IT journey is pretty interesting. There is ups, there is downs. Okay, there are problems. And एक और चीज बोलता हूँ, ठीक है, there is a lot to discuss. So much things keep happening. Okay, uh, I have like been through cases, seen situations. Okay, known from people. Okay, let's say everybody, good people working very hard, all of a sudden the top management of the company decided, due to some business reasons, okay, they decided, no, we have to shrink the company down, we have to lay off people. And you might have heard it happened 3 months ago, 4 months ago. Many companies were laying off. Okay, I don't know right now what is the state, but there were a lot of layoffs already happening. The news was there everywhere. Okay, now even good people were being laid off due to business crisis or conditions. Okay, so it's not always about low performers and stuff like that. So people can get laid off. I want you to be practical in this industry. Okay, know that it can happen, it can happen anytime. The only thing which will help you to survive is your technical growth. That's it. Because companies might fire, businesses, guys, think, देखो, no need to get emotional. If it is your business, if it is not making money, will you keep employees? कहाँ से पैसा देंगे? Will you give out of your pocket? Will you come on road and do? Not possible. So it's nothing to take emotionally. Take it practically. Understand there is a situation and be aware it can happen at any time. So you need to know, if your growth is happening, if you're somebody, market will always consume you. There will be always some project for you. And even when layoffs are happening, maybe in your company, you will not be laid off because you are a good candidate. But there is always this but, where if layoffs happen and if you don't have the knowledge, life can just change around. So you cannot wait for some downfall to happen, this crash to happen, and then start learning. Yesterday we said, great people, those who belong in the top 20%, they utilize the remaining 5 hours of the day also properly. So make that as your lifestyle. Don't wait to learn during appraisal cycles or promotion. Now I will learn something, I will create an impact. Don't wait for that. Don't wait here, a company is now discussing about layoff, let me learn something new because I want to give new interviews. If you wait for such opportunities, future is dark. Always life will give you pressure and tension only, because you'll always be afraid what to do, or this is happening, this is happening. BP high rahega, फिर stress aa jayega, and you will be like, it's so painful. A simple way of living is learn every day, and you will realize you will knowledge wise always be ahead than 80% of the crowd, and all these ups and downs will not suffer you. That's the reason, guys, if you're seeing, I am since so many years constantly learning every single day, certifications, courses, books, skills, soft skills, whatever is required for my career growth, I keep learning on a daily basis. so that I'm always prepared no matter what is going on around. And I would like to give you the same mindset. Without growth, there is no future. There is going to be crisis which can come from a number of ways, and then you will be like, what to do with all these things? Okay? So take the learnings. There will a lot of it shared today, and everything can lead to a very great career as part of your life. Okay? So fine. That's it for today. Let me quickly share the attendance and mark your presence in. And today is the last day of this week 1. Next, we will be connecting back on Monday with the filtered candidates, those who have really qualified as part of the week 2, the 4 out of 5 sessions. Okay. So we will be connecting. Let me paste the code. Code for today is 6767. And this is the form. Everybody, mark your attendance, team. And yeah, it's Friday time. So like we discussed again yesterday, guys, balance life, have fun, enjoy. But kitna enjoy karonge? And let me tell you, will not enjoy too much. You will waste your time there also. Arey, ho gaya enjoyment, abhi baithe. You need to balance. Learn 3 hours, 4 hours, take up a new course, finish a course. Like 4 ghanta beto. Sit, learn, grow, and then go out, enjoy, play, hardcore party karo. Then you will find that you lived your weekend properly. Not like ghar pe baith ke just movies are going on and that's it. Don't make that as your life. Okay? So chalo quickly guys, mark your attendance. And all the filtered candidates we will be meeting on Monday. I will share the name in our WhatsApp group. Who are these candidates? Second, in your WhatsApp, I will share you week 2 related Zoom link. And on a daily basis, we will be live stream on YouTube as well. And week 2 is all about productivity. In less time, completing more work. And whatever techniques we understood, like ideas you wrote down, right, 2 days ago. So those ideas we will be brushing up, converting it into a system and applying it productively. So week 1 related ideas for your career growth will be effectively applied in the coming week. So be ready for hardcore action, everyone. Life is beautiful if you do something great with it. Okay. Chalo. Mark your attendance and have a nice peaceful sleep, everybody. Okay. Okay. Chalo, bye bye, everyone. Okay. Thank you.